It's September 12th, 2024. I'm with Mr. John J. Jeckovich, and we're reading his book, Their Mother's Sons. It's about 900 pages, and we're on chapter 17, and this is titled, The News of Renee's Tragic Death. And this is page 488. At this time, Mr. Jeckovich is out of the service. He's a civilian now, and he's in Niagara Falls, New York. And he just found out about Renee's tragic death. And before I begin, Mr. Jeckovich, what is your dog tag number?
42965.
Okay. This is docu-series 315, and we're filming from an underground bunker with not much light, but we're doing our best. We're doing our best. What did you want to say before I start reading the news of Renee's tragic death?
What I wanted to say about it?
Yeah, about Renee's tragic death. What could you fill us in for people that don't understand what it's about?
Well, Renee was a true person, real sincere person, and she got involved with the resistance.
The French resistance, right?
And they found out about it, and they thought she was a traitor.
Mm-hmm. Well, I could just elaborate. Renee was becoming a Roman Catholic nun. She was becoming cloistered in Paris, France. And Paris at this time was occupied for the last 4 years by the Nazis. And Renee found out Easter, I believe it was of 1943, that her mother and father and her two brothers were savagely beaten by and killed by the Nazis. So she left the religious order and she went back to her homestead where she lived with her family, and that was in downtown Paris, right?
Yeah.
And what was Renee doing? What was she able to do quite well?
On the resistance?
No, what was she able to do? What was her passion in painting?
Oh, she wanted to be a nun.
No, but besides that, what was she have a talent for doing? She was talented in many things. Portraits? Painting?
Oh, she was a good painter. And that's what these higher up, the German authors come in to get the pictures, they could paint it, not to paint it.
So she did a fine job.
Yeah.
So the first time you went in Renee's apartment or flat, what did you see?
A lot of pictures of the German higher ups.
German officers.
Yeah.
And were they all over the walls?
No, they weren't all over the walls. There were one or two on each wall.
Okay. So there was enough of them in there for you to be noticeable, for you to notice the officers.
Yeah, well, because Renee was painting them, and he's demonstrated what he did.
I see. And what was the reason why Renee was painting the Nazis?
Because she's a good facial painter.
And was she also looking for information?
Well, they didn't know that at first, but they found out very shortly.
So once the Nazis found out she was in the French resistance gathering information,
Yeah.
what happened?
Well, she was an informant, and they killed her.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So that's a little background about this chapter 17, News of Renee's Tragic Death. Mr. Jeckovich was in Company H, 2nd Battalion, 291st Regiment of the 75th Infantry Division of the U.S. Army during World War II. And they are affectionately referred to, this division, affectionately referred to, not in a derogatory sense. They were affectionately referred to as a division, as a Diaper Division. Why were you referred to that? The Diaper Division.
75th?
Yeah, Diaper.
Well, they come from ASC, come from all the colleges.
And the ages were young.
Yeah, they were drafted in the war.
Young, right? Diaper Division, young. Very young. And so that's how they got the term. Mr. Jeckovich's final battle was the Battle of the Bulge, and he received the Purple Heart and 2 bronze stars. And he lives by this method of living. He lived as World War II, and he survived probably, I believe, from his mother's prayers. His mother was a devout Roman Catholic, and that's what the book is named after, their mother's sons. And she would pray the rosary and kneel before her bed every night praying for her son. And Mr. Jeckovich did not get killed, but very close to get killed during World War II. A sniper hit him in the shoulder, then shrapnel in his leg, and he was sent to Paris for several months to recuperate. And that's where he met Renee. That's how this story blends in together. This is how it blends in together. And when Mr. Jeckovich was able, the hospital in north of Paris by 30 miles, Mr. Jeckovich would take a bus, a train, and then a taxi to see Renee, correct?
Yeah.
3 modes of transportation.
Right.
And you had to be back every night by midnight.
And they roll call at 5 o'clock the next morning.
What happens if you miss roll call?
You're AWOL.
You're AWOL. Mr. Jeckovich lives by this motto: yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. And that's what he lives by. So we're going to pick up, we have a little background on this chapter now, and news of Renee's tragic death. So here we go. We're going to pick up in the middle of this chapter. Steve, which is Mr. Jeckovich's brother, Steve was home for the holidays, which only added to my emotional upheaval. He was the last person I wanted to see after this traumatic ordeal with Renee. Of course, I did not mention anything about Renee. It was of no interest to him. Besides, he would only revert to his own mannerisms, which would only antagonize me, and which I was in no mood for at that time. So your brother Steve would have no interest in hearing about it?
Yeah.
Okay. He was impressed by the fact that I had a car, and shortly thereafter asked if he could use it to see his friends. He would take off with Jimmy Duncan. Did you meet Jimmy Duncan?
Jimmy Duncan, yeah.
How was he? Was he a nice guy?
Yeah, he was a nice guy, yeah.
Was he?
That's not my friend.
Was he in a war?
I don't think so, no.
It's amazing how these guys.
The what?
It's amazing how these guys during World War II, some of them missed.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
How did they get missed, yeah.
That's amazing. I don't know. And Ralph Enstrom to make the rounds with their old Boy Scout buddies. Although he did not drink to the extent of Lookie is Mr. Jeckovich's brother. Although he did not drink to the extent that Lookie did, I knew he indulged, and I thought it was none of my business as long as he did not wreck my car before he went back to school. So you let him use your car because you knew he was going to be responsible enough to bring it back.
Moderate, yeah.
Okay, all right. Steve would talk about Christmas parties, and he would attend during his stay out of home, and I envied him and his social skills, something I never acquired or ever learned. He would bring Jimmy Duncan over quite often, something I could never do. So Jimmy Duncan would come to your mother's house quite often, correct?
Yeah.
But you weren't allowed to bring people home?
I wasn't?
Yeah, it said you would never do.
No, I don't think that was a question.
Okay, I'll read what you said here. Maybe I misunderstood it. He would bring Jimmy Duncan over quite often, something I could never do. And Mother would seem pleased to fix them dinner or even a snack. Steve felt perfectly comfortable in this setting, and I wondered how he could manage it, since I would have a difficult time dealing with him. I would say only a few words to Jimmy Duncan, and he seemed difficult time dealing with. I would say only a few words to Jimmy Duncan, and he seemed to brush me aside and continued his conversation with Steve. So you would try to talk to Jimmy Duncan, and he would just brush you aside.
Yeah, no. I was a billhead.
Okay. But you were a combat soldier, too.
No, that didn't make any difference.
Yeah, well, it don't. Let me just tell you. World War II, they had 16,400,000 men and women fighting for World War II. Right now, 16,500,000 300,000 of those young and women are gone. They're dead. We have approximately 100,000 left, and we have only, out of that 100,000, about 7,000 combat veterans like Mr. Jeckovich. He was a combat veteran. All the rest of the 100,000 left, they were rear echelon.
Yeah.
What did rear echelon primarily
Work
do?
in the offices.
Inventory equipment.
Yeah, they didn't participate in the war. No.
They would never go into the war. Did the rear echelon even have a weapon?
I imagine they have a pistol or revolver in their desk or
And
something.
that was it.
But they were guarded. They had the infantry guard those people all the time.
Okay. So there's only approximately 7,000 World War II combat veterans left, and we're losing them at a rate of 135 a day. So do the math. So I'm sitting here with Mr. Jeckovich, and anyone who has any questions for a true combat veteran who spent most of his military on the front lines of the Battle of Bulge, and text me at 407-366-0000. Does it look like the stereo system's working?
Oh yeah, it's fine.
407-366-0000. Or as we say in the great state of South Carolina, 407-366-0000. Okay, 407-366-0000. Text me any questions you have for Mr. Jeckovich, and I'll be sure he answers them. This is your opportunity to talk to a true World War II vet. Okay, let's see where I left off. Let's see. Where the hell am I? Let me see. He would bring Jimmy Duncan over quite often, something I could never do, and Mother seemed pleased to fix them dinner or even a snack. Steve felt perfectly comfortable in this setting, and I wondered how he could manage it since I would have a difficult time dealing with him. I would always say only a few words to Jimmy Duncan, and he seemed to brush me aside and continue his conversation with Steve.
Well, I was a middlehead.
What did that have to do with it, though? I don't understand.
Yeah, he worked at the Gazette.
Okay, so he worked at the newspaper,
Yeah,
and then why would you working in Kimberly be any different?
yeah.
Why would it be different? I don't understand.
Well, he thinks that his job was more prestigious than mine.
Okay, I don't think it was, but I listened to what you say. So here we go. I would only say a few words to Jimmy Duncan, and he seemed to brush me aside and continue his conversation with Steve, laughing and joking. All the while, I then left them feeling that I was intruding. Holidays were almost difficult for me. For some reason, I could never get into the spirit of them. I was only relieved to a certain degree when I had children of my own. What made it worse for me is when Steve would bring his family to visit Mother on at least 2 or 3 holidays during the year. Looky would never brought anyone home. They would honk their horn, and when they arrived at the house, he would scamper out to their car. He never talked about his friends, and he never volunteered any information. As time went on, our meager relationship only solidified and deteriorated until we talked less and less. So you had 2 brothers. One was named Steve, and the other was named Looky. Were they in active combat duty?
During the war? No.
What did they do?
See, Lukey was in the Coast Guard.
What did he do? Did he ever see war?
He went as far as Hawaii.
He's got as far as Hawaii.
Yeah.
There wasn't much combat in Hawaii.
No.
Zero. A
He
beautiful
had an
place
office
to-
job there.
Okay. And how about your brother Steve? Did he see combat?
Now he had school developers.
Okay, didn't he teach also in the Army?
Huh?
Didn't he teach driving lessons in the Army?
A little bit after that, I was teaching how to drive Jeeps, yeah.
Okay. Was he a good instructor?
Huh?
Was he a good instructor?
Well, he's probably real strict, yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay. But neither of your brothers made it to combat, correct? None of your brothers
No.
would make it. Mm-hmm. Okay. We talk less and less. I was like having a stranger in my midst, and I perceived his presence, but that was all. This bothered me at times, especially when I had no one to relate to, but I imagine it not difficult.
What's the matter?
Go ahead.
What's the matter?
You went a little bit back on the flag, maybe come up a half of an inch. Yeah, we're in tight quarters here. Okay, you're good. You're good, Mr. Jeckovich. Okay.
Mr. Jeckovich, Mr.
All right.
Jeckovich, boy,
All right.
oh boy, David, come
Okay,
on.
happy. Be happy today. Be happy. There were pangs of relief when the holidays were over with. Steve was back in school, and it was only Mother and Sally to contend with. Looky was never around much, and when he was, he would sulk and bemoan every little thing until he got up and left to join his friends. A vibration.
The train.
A train overhead? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel the train? Okay. Even at work, we'd be talking about their holiday experiences. Oh, yeah, here we go. I was a tremendous letdown after the holidays as I missed something special and something I would never recapture. Here's what they would say. Everyone at work would be talking about their holiday experiences and how drunk they got. You never got drunk, right?
No.
Yeah, that's worthless. Wasted time and emotions. How many presents they received and who they saw, and in general, what a great time they had. I would listen and note the great discrepancies in my own holiday experiences. It was obvious I was not doing or feeling the things which were normal in my immediate environment. Normal for what I was seeing and hearing in my everyday life from people around me. Some, if I discarded the drinking and the bar frequencies, but there was a sizable chunk I could not, in good conscience, throw aside. Their companionship, understanding, and warmth displayed were sensations I felt strongly while in the Army, but somehow never conceived or manifest in my present surroundings. I knew and understood the concept of companionship and kinship so greatly in my experiences in combat. The concept of love and warmth I attained through my relationships with Anne, Jean, and Renee, which were still some of my most cherished memories. So let me think about this now. We had, during World War II, you had 3 girlfriends. You had, let's start with the first, Anne Mahaney, and she was in Owensboro, North Carolina.
Owensboro, Kentucky.
Oh, okay, yeah, thank you for the correction, Mr. Jeckovich. She was in Owensboro, Kentucky. Interesting fact, after all these years, last week, Owensboro, Kentucky got their first public supermarket.
Yeah.
That's an interesting fact. So she was a fine young lady.
Yeah.
What could you tell us briefly about Anne?
What about Anne?
Just a brush, just what could you tell us about Anne?
Well, she was a faithful daughter. The father was passed away, and the mother was also, she stayed with the mother.
Uh-huh. And how, if you're in the World War II and training camps and all, how would you meet Anne?
How did I meet Anne?
Yeah.
I met her, no, I was in the hospital.
Okay.
And I was taking a walk outside, and there was a boy with a little boat had in the water, and somebody was washing, some woman was washing them.
Okay.
So I went over and started talking to her, and I was watching the boy with that little boy with that sailboat.
And the next girlfriend you had was Jean Rowland Young from Haverford West.
That was English. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Jean.
Yeah.
What could you tell us about?
She had a sister, and I think the sister was jealous of her because Roland was friendly with me instead of her.
Okay. And your last girlfriend you had was Renee, and that was in Paris. And she's the person that we know about that finally got killed by the Nazis, correct?
Yeah.
And that's how come we have this chapter dedicated to her. The news of Renee, the tragic death. Okay. All right, here we go. I'll continue reading. All right. When there was different here that made it so difficult to grasp some of the same virtues I cultivated only a short while ago. It was an enigma, and it constantly perplexed me and took up much of my thoughts and emotions. I was home for almost 2 years now. Wow, you're home for 2 years, holy cow. And my thoughts of the Army were almost faded away. So the Army's a distant memory.
Yeah.
Okay. And the habits of my mind I had a predisposition to do. I would always retain the memories of my combat experiences, sometimes quite vividly through my dreams, and of all the people who lived through these times with me. I still thought of Renee and yes, Anne and Jean, but somehow in the present setting, I could never capture the thoughts that I would feel when I was away from here in the service. I was totally different here, and I could not dwell in my thoughts too long or linger in a nostalgic mood for any length of time. Lookie had finished business school and had gotten a job or position in a naval air station located in the outskirts of town. What did he do at the naval air station?
Worked in the office.
Office work. He would go to work each day in his navy blues, his white sailor cap, and a pea jacket. What's a pea jacket?
Pea jacket, short jacket.
Okay. Well, he wasn't in the service. He was a civilian, right?
He had a military job, but he wasn't in the military.
Okay.
Well, he enlisted in the Coast Guard, yeah. So he had a military background, yeah.
Okay. It was not long until he started to take time off, and was the same scenario all over again. Okay, let's see what this scenario is. I did not reproach him on his behavior, but I was getting tired and a bit peeved at picking up after him when he came home late at night, drunk and belching all over. Mother would not talk to him for several days, which did not seem to bother him, and eventually she would come around and they would be talking again. He had gotten a car which pleased Mother. Now there were 2 cars in the family, which probably gave her a feeling of some kind of economic worth and social standing. The truth of the matter was that he was at the air station all day, when not working, was never home. That never seemed to bother Mother, as I was available most of the time. I drove Steve back to school after the holidays. Where'd you drive him to?
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Pittsburgh played glass.
Okay. I drove Steve back to school after the holidays, whether Thanksgiving or Christmas. I did not recall specifically as we drove. Minutes?
5.
I did not recall specifically as we drove. He would relate only about school, various social functions he'd be involved in, and how much he looked forward to them. His grades were excellent considering he was carrying an engineering course, and I remarked that I wish I could go as well. He brushed it aside and continued about school, talking generally and never being too specific on any topic. It was obvious to me that he felt no compunctions about leaving, only the contrary. He seemed grateful that he was returning to school. He felt no great sense of duty or obligation towards home and stated his main objective was to finish school and then go on to a well-paying job, preferably out of state. Is that what he did?
Well, he wound up in England. But he didn't get, they fired him there.
Well, he went to work in England. What happened?
Well, he got involved in something, a woman or whatever it was, and they kicked him out.
Okay.
And so he decided this unit that would get the higher echelon people that were executive talent.
Like a headhunter.
Yeah, headhunter, yeah.
Okay, I understand. I had no quarrel with that, and I rather envied his independence and sense of concern for his own welfare and future. I only wish I could generate some of that self-interest and inner direction. He seemed to be fully absorbed with only his self-interest and did not think it's desirable or expedient to concern himself about anything else. At school he had a small bedroom apartment which he had just acquired in his junior year. He stated that he was thankful to be out of the dorm.
In that time he was bragging about his writing a book.
What did he write a book about?
I don't know. I didn't tell him about my writing a book or nothing. I didn't say nothing about that.
Well, you sure did write a book, 900 pages. It's quite well written. At school, he had a small bedroom apartment, which he had just acquired in his junior year. He stated he was thankful to be out of the dormitory jungle. After viewing the crowded condition in the men's dormitory, I could understand why. I noticed he was wearing some of his officers' pinks from the Army, but made no comment about it. Why would he be wearing some officers' pinks?
Say again?
You said, I noticed that he was wearing some officers' pinks from the Army, but made no comment about it.
Yeah.
Why would he be wearing?
That was some kind of a sophisticated show-how thing.
Okay. Kind of like a show-off.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. Here we go.
Yeah, he must everyone think he was an officer in the Army.
Okay. All right. But he never made it to combat.
No.
Okay. All right. We chatted a bit, strained, and it was nothing intrinsic or special in our relationship. I left in a short while. He seemed to be a different personality from his usual bubbly, effervescent self, and I observed that he was with Jimmy Duncan or his other friends. So his attitude with Jimmy Duncan was different than his attitude with you, correct?
Right.
He acted differently with Jimmy Duncan than he did with you.
Oh, yeah. Jimmy Duncan was kind of he worked at the Gazette as a pressman.
Okay.
He's a happy-go-lucky kid.
Okay, all right, that's good. We need happy-go-lucky people today.
And then they must have talked to me about it. Hi, John, that's it.
Oh, okay. That was cold. Yeah.
Well, I was a millhead.
Well, as I drove home, I thought about Steve's situation and compared it to mine. Minutes?
1 minute left.
Here we were from the same parents, but certainly we did not have the same talents or personal disposition. I thought his more favorably predisposition would go further in life than my meager ability and skills. Certainly he had attained more than I had at this stage of our lives. Did your brother go to college on the GI Bill?
Yeah.
Did your brother Lookie go to college on the GI Bill?
No, he went to business school, yeah.
Was that on the GI Bill?
Yeah, he got the PL-16, yeah.
PL-16. And you were able to go to college on the GI Bill, but you had responsibilities at home.
Oh, yeah. I was going to go to Bowdoin College out west, liberal arts college.
Okay.
But I never made
But you
it.
still have that option Now, you still
7
did,
seconds.
you still did GI Bill, right?
Well, I don't know if it's effective yet. I mean, for my age,